Mr. Chief Mantello, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any additions or changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Needed a motion for the minutes, please?
I would move that we approve the minutes that have been submitted.
For October 10th, 2023?
Thank you. For October 23rd, 2023.
I'll second it.
The only thing I want to say before we get any more corrections is I believe Mary Lee was present.
I was present, but there's also a date wrong because it says it's approving the minutes of September 25th instead of October 9th. I was minus October 9th, but not here.
So do you have any more corrections?
Those are the only two I've got.
Mr. Merrick?
Got a couple, mostly quite minor. Under Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence, I think we should recognize that Joe Bruno has passed and convert has to had. On the third page, under acceptance of, under proposed sale of dump truck, the second to last line says, M. Jones felt they should set a what they will accept bid price. I think after I've read that a few times, I get what's being said there, but I think it'd be clearer to people who weren't at the meeting if we said, set a price that is what they would accept. I think would capture the same meaning and be clearer. In the next section, acceptance of small-scale grant, in the third line, the line starts with town share, comma, for a of $150,000. I would delete the comma and insert project after a, so that it reads for a project of $150,000. The manager's report, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line describing the location of the 10-acre parcels. I'm not sure, well, prior to that, line 5, J. Thomas stated, the professor wants to do a tick study for a few years and may come back with some mitigation for decreasing the tick habitat. I would add the word recommendations after mitigation. And then in the next two lines, the 3 10-acre parcels from New Road parallel and between Pencil Mill Road and Crystal Heights. I assume that we were saying from New Road parallel to North Road and between Pencil Mill Road and Crystal Heights. And in the third line from the bottom of that paragraph, J. Mark stated he felt it was easier to link the highway department with the mitigation plan. I think we were discussing the recommended position, so to link the recommended highway department position with the mitigation plan. And then in the second to last line, rather than the economic development position instead of connection. And that's all I got.
Mr. Spalding?
I didn't have this one, but I'm confused on why Joe wants to change New Road to North Road. Is it New Road, the road that shoots off to the right, off of Crystal Heights?
Yeah, no, I don't want to change it to North Road, but it says, let me find it again. Parcels from New Road parallel and between Pencil Mill Road and Crystal Heights. If we're going to say parallel, I think we mean to say parallel to North Road.
I would recommend you actually change the word parallel to north, because those 3 lots extend north from New Road between Crystal Heights and Pencil Mill Road, if I remember the tax map correctly. Does that sound right?
Parallel out,
I would say to take parallel out and put north in there.
put north.
It's north of New Road, and those 3 lots run between Pencil Mill and Crystal Heights.
So you're suggesting the 3-acre parcels north of New Road and between Pencil Mill Road and Crystal Heights.
I think that's pretty accurate.
That sounds good to me.
Perfect.
Anything else?
I got one question on the next page, it's probably because I just don't know. The Holland tractor's been looked at, and there's a crack in the arm. The tractor has an arm.
For the mower? The articulating arm for the mower?
Okay,
So, anything else? There's been a motion and a second, I believe, correct?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, citizens' comments and concerns, items not on the agenda. Do we have anything? Yes, sir?
Yeah, Woodbury, I live on South Street.
Can you come up to the podium, please? That way the recording will catch your voice.
Okay. The last time I met here, I brought it up about the dirt and the public sand. I took a sample tonight, just to scoop off the top. This what gets into my cars, my lawn, windows, and that's the dirt we gotta use. You get the pile for the town screened, this is not screened. When you rake that off your lawn, it's fun in the spring. And you catch it with a snow blower, it's windows. And he said he'd look into it.
I believe he did that, but was
This is a
today?
scoop. I just went over and got a scoop.
Well, then yours truly will contact the town manager and the highway
Yes.
foreman in the morning.
Quick fix.
And I think Mike our town manager's on the phone. So do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah, I did talk to Jeff, they just may not have gotten to that yet, so we did bring it up that we need to get that big stone out of the public sand pile and some new sand in there, but if there's stuff still in there, all I can assume at this point is they haven't got to it yet.
So can we assure Mr. Woodbury that we will get to it?
Absolutely.
Okay. You're welcome, sir. Anybody else? Items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on. The response to the request for the South Street School plaque to be returned to the schoolhouse. John McGuire's request, I believe it was.
Woodbury.
That was your request, sir?
Yes, sir, that's where I live.
I know that we asked the town manager to do some research on the history of this and when it was gifted to the town.
I have some information for that since we had the meeting.
Mike, do you want to speak first?
can't hear him
Yeah, I didn't do the research, we actually had, a former, it was, Marion Jacobowski did some research and talked to Jim about it, on where the history of it was donated to the town. So that's all I know. I didn't do the actual research on it because Jim reached out to Marion Jacobowski. And Jim's not at the meeting tonight to kind of share what he had learned. but I guess it was donated to the town, is, kind of the gist of what I learned, and, so now it's the decision, I guess, on the board of what they want to do with it.
Go ahead, Mr. Woodbury.
I got some information, the wife looked into the records tonight. The school actually was purchased for $100 for the land. But the plaque itself, the guy that donated it is dead. I told that the last time he got killed on a bicycle in Boston. He had money to come up here, he renovated it, they found the plaque upstairs in the attic, which was not done over yet. It was half yellow because of the weather. He turned it into the town. But the plaque, these people on this plaque are the students that went to school in Meadowbrook, Civil War and World War I. And the names, I have them here, picture of the plaque, unites the whole community because anybody that could walk to school there went there at that time. A lot of these died in the Civil War, so I feel it belongs back into the school, and that I'd leave it here. If I sold it, it'd have to stay there. Out of respect and honor.
Anyone on the board care to comment on that?
Well, the only problem that I have with that, Mr. Woodbury, is you said that if you sold it, it'd have to stay there. How are you gonna make the poor people that buy the house make it stay there? That's the only trouble that I have with that.
What's it doing now?
I think it's hanging on the wall of the town office, correct?
It is. It's hanging on the wall in the conference room in the town
Where it's
office.
safe, where it's
Told by
safe.
the town manager it was in the closet.
That is not a correct statement, and I find it hard to believe he said that.
Okay. So whatever, I just would like to have it put back into the school.
At present, it is on display in the town office in the conference room.
Okay.
At this point, I feel that, this is only my opinion, and I can't speak for the rest of the board. I personally feel that it should be retained by the town and kept on display for anyone who cares to see it, to view it.
Okay.
Whereas if it's in a private residence, that would not be the case. That's only my opinion. And I'm only 20% of the board, so the rest of the board is,
I will second that.
I'm not making that motion, I'm chairing the meeting, so.
I'll make the motion that it stays in the town office for display.
I have a motion, do I hear a second?
I would second that.
Any other discussion from the board? Any other discussion from the public? Go ahead, Mr. Ware.
Well, I just want to say that I've, since I've been attending town meetings, I've looked at that plaque for several hours, maybe many hours, and I find it inspiring, and I think it's an asset that it is in a public place where citizens in general can view it.
I'll agree with that. That's been my opinion. It has been taken care of. We've had it professionally installed on that wall so that it will not fall. It won't get broke. It is. It is protected. If there's some way you want to make a copy of it or something, then we'd be more than happy. Well, we'd be happy to accommodate anything along those lines, but I think that should be retained in the town's possession.
Stuff somewhere that,
Most certainly not. That's one of our prized possessions.
all right.
I've looked at that. I've been attending select board meetings for quite some time, and I keep looking at that plaque and thinking about the history. I didn't grow up in this town, but I grew up in this county, and a lot of the names are familiar.
I saw it in the old building in Castleton. That's where I took the picture of it years ago.
Well, you're welcome to come and look at it. It's been cleaned up, and it's on display in the new town office now.
All right.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your efforts, though. We appreciate that.
That's right.
Moving on, permission to erect statue of Ethan Allen on town land. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to that? You need to tell us who you are, Nancy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nancy Trudo, Graham Trudo. We're here to represent the Ethan Allen Monument Committee Graham and I jumped on this committee because we found it to be very interesting. These group of people would like to put up a statue that would be up in time for the 250th anniversary of the taking of Fort Ticonderoga, and to put it in Castleton, where presently there is a plaque on a stone. And so we're not asking the town for any money, we're just asking for permission to erect a statue. We haven't quite decided or found out how much money we have to do this, but either a bronze or we have been offered marble, but whether we could afford a sculptor would be another question. So, but we also want to keep the wording of the plaque that Alan and Arnold did meet in Castleton, and I'll let Graham take it from here because he did all the research on that. And if anybody, we gave you a copy of our report.
Yep.
And if anybody has any questions about the report, Graham can answer.
I got one right after that. Just, I think I know where it's going, but nobody else in the room knows where it's going. You didn't say where it's going. Is it the park and ride down by the?
No, where the stone is, the big stone with the plaque on the front of it,
In front of the Higley House.
in front.
Oh, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay,
Well-
yeah, in front of the Higley
Yeah.
House.
Now, just west of the Federated Church.
Okay, okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I will state that it's been researched, and we do know for a fact that the town owns that land. So we found the deed, and it's no question about that.
Well, and the town manager had talked about that they want to do some renovations of that area, make the park a little bit bigger, put some new benches in. And May 9th, 2025 is when there's going to be a large celebration that the Historical Society is really going to be doing a lot of that. So we would like to have the statue up by then.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, or is it Mr. Vice Chairman? I'm not sure what I call you tonight.
I don't
Mr.
care.
Combs. I think you know that Christian and I have had a few email exchanges about this question. Did Benedict Arnold and Ethan Allen meet in that location on, what would it have been, May 8th?
May 8th, May 9th.
Yeah. We ended up disagreeing about that, and I don't want to get into a long discussion about why I disagree with Christian, but from my point of view, the statue is needed. What's important, I think, is to acknowledge the role that Castleton played in that War Council meeting on May 8th, and I think, honestly, I think we have underappreciated the role that Ethan Allen played in that assault on Fort Ticonderoga, Ethan Allen and his Green Mountain Boys. So from my point of view, I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's a terrific idea. I don't like perpetuating what I perceive to be a misunderstanding of events, and I'd be happy to meet with both of you and others to explain my personal view of the evidence. But at the very least, the two historians that Christian has consulted both don't believe the meeting took place. And I think I've looked at some of the primary resource materials and reached my own conclusion, but I think I'm most inclined to defer to Richard Smith and Ennis Dooling, who are very knowledgeable. Ennis Dooling actually wrote a book about Benedict Arnold 2 years ago that was published. So I don't know what you're asking the board to decide tonight.
Just permission to put the statue up,
Yeah, so we move forward with that.
so that we can begin to look for a sculptor and, I mean, it's not gonna be anything life size.
Life size, right?
That's about what
I
we're
assume he was
looking
about 5'7",
Yeah.
based on how big people were in that era.
And, but like I said, whether it's going to be in marble or bronze, all depends on how much money, but we have found out that we need to give whoever is going to make the sculpture at least a year.
Mhm.
So we are needing to move forward in picking something.
Right. So for me, the issue is really how it's explained to the public. And I can think of all sorts of ways to describe the importance of that man, that place. I even brought some potential text here with me. But the bronze plaque that went up in 1941 is certainly inaccurate in its date. It gives the date of the War Council as being May 9th. If there's any strength in the evidence, it is for a War Council on May 8th. But that's the part of this that I care about. I'm happy to celebrate Ethan Allen's important role.
So would you want that plaque removed?
I don't know that we can remove it. It was apparently put in place by the Sesquicentennial Committee in 1941. I don't know, I assume that maybe at this point the Historical Society has control of it. It may be their decision. I wouldn't ask for it to be removed. I think that, frankly, part of our history is understanding when we got things wrong sometimes.
I have a question. In your mind or your opinion, what time frame or what date did Allen and Arnold meet in Castleton?
I don't believe they met in Castleton. I believe that Arnold came to Castleton a few hours after Allen left for Shoreham, and the next morning, on May 10th, he raced up to Shoreham to meet with him. And that's what Ennis Dooling certainly has told me is...
Did you read the report?
Thoroughly.
The one thing I want to explain is that Richard Smith, who wrote the book Ethan Allen and the Capture of Fort Ticonderoga, he made a statement which could be taken that he and Allen did not meet because Allen had left. But if you read the whole book, you'll find where he contradicted himself. Basically what it says is Arnold, upon arriving in Castleton, he was told by the Green Mountain Boys and the leaders. Now the leaders were chosen at the Council of War. There was Ethan Allen was to be the commander, Easton was to be the second in command, and Seth Warner was to be the third in command. So he said that Arnold did meet the Green Mountain Boys and the leaders, including Mott. Now, Edward Mott was the chairman. So, in one sense, you're saying, well, he didn't meet, but yet Smith says that they did meet.
Can I interrupt for a second, Graham? To be, in all fairness, we're not here to
Okay, I understand.
debate
I just
whether or
wanted-
not he actually met. We're here to decide whether or not
Okay.
we want to agree with you that, or honor your request for a
But
statue.
I just wanted to clarify that.
So I'm going to interrupt everyone and ask for a motion to approve the installation of a statue on that property.
I'll make that motion that we allow a statue of Ethan Allen on that property.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
Well, my concern would be whatever text is put on that statue. As I said, I don't have any objection to keeping the stone and bronze plaque that's presently there. I would oppose approval of the statue on that site if it reaffirmed the meeting of Benedict Arnold and Ethan Allen.
We hadn't even gotten to text
Right,
on.
and I don't think there's any need
the
to do that.
statue.
That's unimportant.
At this point, can we agree on installing a statue and debate the nature of the text at some other point in time?
Well, like I said, we hadn't planned on putting a text on the statute. It was just the statute we were asking permission for.
Fine with me.
Okay, are we done discussing this? I'll call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Nice, thank you.
Are you accepting donations?
We will be, for sure.
I was prepared to make one.
I never refuse money, so I'll take it.
Thank you.
We've raised about 600 so far.
Make that 700.
Thank you very much. Let me have your hat, Chief.
I didn't bring my wallet.
By the way, for David Blow students, this doesn't normally happen at the meeting.
Okay, do we have, we do have our highway foreman on. We're gonna move on. Mr. Davidson, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're here to discuss the can we have one meeting, please? Thank you. We're here now going to discuss the anti-ice and dust control system purchase you're recommending. So at this point, the floor is yours, Mr. Foreman.
Yeah, we have a trailer hookup for the dust control. It holds our calcium chloride. It's currently only hooked up to run off of one truck. And sometimes that truck's been down, and you can only put one liquid in it. I'd like to get another tank that can be moved to different trucks and contain different liquid.
Your thoughts on this, Mr. Town Manager?
I believe that we're kind of hamstrung right now with using it on one vehicle, especially since that's the one we're trying to replace because it's got a lot of mechanical issues. So I trust in what Jeff's saying as far as having the capabilities of moving around and still be able to provide this service and application through our roads.
So is your recommendation the first option?
Yes, sir, it is the electric one. It plugs right into a hitch. Can be picked up, put in multiple trucks that we have.
Okay, did the board have any questions? Joe?
One of my questions would be, there's a fairly large price differential between the first option and the second. It approaches 3 times as much. What is it that we'd be getting in the second that we don't get in the first?
A gas motor. So when I spoke to the gentleman, he actually says that places have gone to the electric because it's an encased housing, and the parts are constantly being replaced on the gas engines.
Thank you. And are the
difference, yeah.
parts on the first option stainless steel as well?
No, that's PVC, sir.
Well, I like the fact that it's cheaper if it's meet your needs.
Yes, sir.
So would it be safe to, and I hate this word, but I'm going to say it anyways, assume that the PVC spray bar would be easy to repair and relatively inexpensive to repair if it got broke?
Much so cheaper than stainless.
That's what I was thinking. Anything else from the board?
Well, in the absence of Mr. Leamy, I'll ask, where's the money coming from?
Anybody here?
Town manager.
Pass in the buck.
Mike, are you there?
I'm here, yeah, I did go on mute. It's gonna come out of their winter maintenance budget, and if this application can be used for, dust control, and if there's ever a need for, if it can be used for winter, for putting down any kind of brine, if we ever go that route, that would certainly be a good use of, dual use, but right now, if it's gonna come out of their summer maintenance, I think I said winter, I made a mistake, out of their summer maintenance, budget for the chloride.
Go ahead.
This is a little off the subject of the equipment, but some of the recent discussions and some of the information the town manager has shared with me, including about anti-icing products, has got me more interested in what we're putting on our roads, especially in areas that are likely to have runoff going into our streams. And this is probably a topic for a future discussion, but I'd be interested in hearing what we're doing in that regard to try to reduce, for example, the salinization of our brook trout streams.
That would actually be on the next topic of anti-icing liquids. So I can go right into that if you're interested. I kind of gave you guys a little bit of information on it in the packets.
We should probably act on the first
We should
item.
do first things first. Then
I
we'll
would
do
make a
second.
motion that we approve purchase of the 550-gallon electric-powered single-lane PVC spray bar with manual control flow system hitch attachment for a price not to exceed $2,324.10.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I should have said aye.
Okay, moving on. We're going to be talking about anti-icing liquids, and Jeff, you're on again.
All right. The anti-icing liquids, they've been around for a while. I don't know if they've been tried in this town. So there's some basic ones, and then there's some concoctions, so to speak. They kind of help you get away from the salt and the salt brines. They're using magnesium or calcium mixed in with some other products. So they're more friendly to the environment. The main thing an anti-icer does, it's a proactive approach. So think of the equivalent of putting oil in your skillet or your baking pan, preventing the food from sticking. So this liquid application is put onto the roads pre-storm, and it prevents the bonding of snow and ice to the roads. So this product it's like I said, it's a proactive approach. It can be put on before storms, and you don't get that, tires driving over and mashing it down and getting compacted snow. We're eliminating that right off the bat. Statistics say it eats up around 1 to 2 inches of the first snow.
Can I ask a question, Nick?
Certainly.
Jeff, I'm just wondering what other towns around are using this? Any towns close to us?
Town of Rutland uses it.
Rutland uses it? Okay.
There's different products, like I said, they're used nationwide. It's not anything new. It's tried and true. There's tons of data on it. You're cutting salt costs. It's better for the environment. You're making safer roads. So I'm having a hard time seeing the downfalls of it. But it would definitely be a new product for us to introduce to our roads.
So, Jeff, I have a question. At this point, you're proposing that we institute one of these 3 courses of action that you have on this document?
If not this year, then I definitely would like to try to get it for us for next winter. We already started. We have a nice step with the pre-treated salt. So that's going to help cut down on salt as well, and it's more environmentally friendly. It's when talking with residents, the salt into the waters and the corrosive on the vehicles, that's definitely a concern. There's products out there that make it more efficient, it's more environmentally friendly, and overall, it's cost savings between the material as well as plow time.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike.
Go ahead.
Since I sent the board some information on this magnesium chloride, and I haven't spoken to Jeff because of just the situation of me being out, to talk to him. So my recommendation would be, until we get more information about magnesium and calcium chloride and what I had sent you, that this be held off until next year, since we're already using the pre-treated salt, until we can get a little more information on the effects of magnesium chloride or calcium chloride, both in the environment and the corrosiveness of vehicles. Because what I read, it doesn't sound like good stuff. So I think I owe Jeff some desk time to sit down and talk to him about it before we come back to you guys with a proposal.
I'm okay with waiting a year. Is the rest of the board okay?
Definitely.
All right, because I think that based on what I've learned about it, we need to learn more.
I have a bunch of stuff I can bring to you or email to you or whatever you need.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll figure out what all our questions are and start getting answers to them over the course of the next few months, so that by, say, in 6 months or 8 months' time, we can make an intelligent decision and be prepared for next winter. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. All right, so moving on. Proposed updates to the noise ordinance. Chief Mantello, you're on.
Yes, exciting stuff. Okay, so the changes that I made on the first draft, which I gave you guys a second draft, draft 2, everybody have that? You didn't go in your box, did you?
I found it
today.
in front of me. Here,
Take that, Jim.
Thank you.
I found it in front of me when I sat down. I just assumed there was one in front of you as well.
So
Bad
if
word
you
again.
remember the changes from the first draft that we had, I've added a couple things that are underlined, like the first one under section 4 under definitions. The sound level meter testing location will be at the public access point, sidewalk, or lot line. I thought that was a better word for boundaries for property. And then the one thing I know that Joe made, or Mr. Mark made a comment change, was on the next, on paragraph A on section 4 prohibition, where in the end, did you want me to add any time after that? Or did you want me to take out the time frame? I made the note under there when we went over that. I think it's at the end. At least it sounds good. Because somebody brought the question about the Pine Street, about the any time thing, or the time frame, or the decibel.
And once again, to get into what is unreasonable.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
And what's reasonable to me may not
Where we
be.
listed on here was 70.
Chief, you have said that the lawnmowers exceed 70 decibels, and you said that several
Correct.
times.
Correct, but this is for the nighttime?
Okay, but you got any time there.
Well, that's a, I don't know if you've been tracking, Bob, with that situation we had all last summer with the Pine Street
That, yep.
and the Bomoseen Inn. And because it started much earlier and they usually got done like 9, that didn't fit that window that we were looking at. So that was the difficulty there, because that property literally borders the edge of that property. I mean, it's right there. The whole community back there. So,
And Bob, this refers to musical instruments, et cetera, stereos, et cetera.
Okay. I was just trying to make a point of where the 70 decibels, because
Right.
that doesn't mean anything to most people.
correct.
I'm not against or,
Well, see, the biggest problem was, what is reasonable to somebody else is not reasonable to another person. So we have to come up with some type of numerical decibel reading standard to go by, because some people, they can tolerate it. They don't make a complaint about it. They just don't. Where other people will say it's unreasonable. So how can my officers be fair?
So we still need to decide what sound pressure level we're gonna put in item A, in section
Yeah,
4A?
See, I
Is
still
that where
think
we're at?
the national, and all the ones I've looked at, the national, and what they recommend through the, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, and also ADA, is 70. Some put 75, but that's usually anything after 10. Because machine equipment and stuff like that during the day is an emergency, and it gives those exceptions in the back. Yes.
Go ahead, Joe.
To your point on section 4A, Chief, I agree that just to speak of as to unreasonably disturb the peace of the public is, leaves a lot of ambiguity. And personally, I have great confidence in you and your staff, and I'd be pleased to add something, I mean, that acknowledges that a determination by a representative of Castleton Police Department.
Where do you want to put that?
This would be at the end of 4A.
Okay. So how would you want me to?
Well, I just been looking at this for the last 6 minutes here, so I'd be happy to offer a suggestion, but the concept is to assert that we trust the judgment of Castleton Police Department staff on this matter, which is to say, if a complaint were to come from a member of the public that could not be corroborated by the police department, we might not act on it.
Gotcha, okay. So why don't, if you come up with a sentence that fits that, can you send that to me?
Of course.
So where are you proposing we put the 70 dB limit, Chief?
I'd put it up under definitions. And also,
Okay. I see it now.
and also, probably section 5. It's gonna cover anything after those hours, 10 to 7, so it could actually go into section 5 and section 4, or put it under definitions as the standard that will go by for that time period. I mean, the ordinances and I've looked at nationally and different, from large cities to small towns, they usually have it within the definition period, but you can put it elsewhere. I'd have to create another bullet.
Well, I don't feel that it needs to be in section 5 because you specifically say unreasonable noise, which is defined in section 1, or section 3 rather. So
Okay.
I think if we add the addition that you and Mr. Mark are going to work on, I think that would be maybe all we need to do. Anyone else on the board have an opinion?
That's fine.
Because right now, what we do is everything is geared after 11.
After 11? What if we change to 10?
Well, it doesnn't really change, we would just push it up, that's all. I mean, we have social events from the university that occur during the springtime, that are during daytime. So right now, we have a situation where they will meet with me if they want to have a particular social event, and I give them a cutoff time at 9 o'clock, that music is off. So, and that's been working out. So, I mean, it's not gonna be perfect. We're not looking to shut everything down. We want to be respectful for the residents and what is reasonable, what's not. So,
Okay, so you and Joe are going to
yeah.
take another shot at this and present it to us again?
The other thing, look on page 2 where it says under social events. So what they consider a social event is basically one or more persons not residing at the premises. And that's a pretty standard throughout most policies and ordinances I've looked throughout the country. So I just wanna make sure you're all right with that.
I saw that, and I think you gotta draw the line somewhere, and,
Yeah,
you know, it's 2 people or 10, I think you picked the right spot.
Just one last question. This covers the whole town, right? There's no borders like our dog barking and that stuff, right?
correct.
Okay.
Correct, yes. And that would be another issue that we'll have to address at some point too, is the animal control ordinance. Because the borders in the town and the roads don't cover everything. But that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
So is there
different.
anything, if you see anything on here, you can send it to Joe, send it to myself, my email, and then I'll be back in a couple weeks and we'll just kind of go over it again.
I'm all set. You guys all set?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chief.
All right, thanks.
Okay, moving on. Town manager's requesting approval to apply for a Better Roads grant. Mike, this is all you for a moment.
So this is the grant that I sent the board members by email to share with you, what my town was. I put it in my manager report as well. But to apply for the category B, which is just kind of normal culverts, ditching and that kind of stuff, stone lining, and then the D for the large structures, which we have that culvert up on Belgo Road that FEMA's turned us down twice to replace with a larger structure. The roads, during 2 storms, the roads washed out, but because it wasn't on the same side of the road that it happened, FEMA said it didn't happen in the same location, so they disapproved it. But that'd be a good use of that, because there's ledge there, and it's gonna be costly to take that ledge out and get that culvert in. So by using the grant, it's up to $60,000. That will help us achieve the goal there. And then the category B would be on a road that where we normally have problems with stormwater runoff or culverts, and try to maximize that. That grant this year is $20,000. So I'm asking to apply for both the category B and D grants for state fiscal year 25.
I would move that
And
the
as I said in
select,
my report, I said that the town always doesn't have a problem meeting the in-kind match with our labor between personnel and vehicles. So it usually is we maximize the grant that way.
I would move that the select board authorize the town manager to apply for the 2025 Vermont Better Roads Grant Program, specifically for grants under the category B and D groupings.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, townwide reappraisal bid review and recommendations. Mary Jo is out of town and cannot be with us, so I've read this, and I'm going to ask the town manager if he has anything to add before we open this to the board.
I did review this with Cindy Wright and with Mary Jo, and because of where the town sits, when they went from CLA to COD as this measuring stick for reappraisals, we're now going to approach in both categories. So I don't see a downside in waiting for the reappraisal to happen. And Mary Jo went over this with me quite extensively, and I don't have any disagreements with what she's recommending, both on timing and the price. So if the board so chooses to take her recommendation, I also support her recommendation.
Just for the rest of the board, I had the opportunity to go through the state list of education and homestead and non-homestead tax rates and the CLAs for all the towns in the state. I didn't analyze each one, but I looked at some of the high points. And I also agree with our town manager and our assessor's recommendation, because if we wait a year, we're gonna be in a bigger herd of people trying to get a contractor to do this. So, the board have any questions or input?
I have a question. When we talked about this before, didn't they say it would probably take 2 years before we could get someone to do the reappraisal?
I'm going to ask this gentleman, which I don't recall your name, unfortunately. Can you stand up at the podium, please, and introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm John Vickery. I work for Tyler Technologies. I would be the point person on this project if you were to select Tyler Technologies to do the reappraisal. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So, please ask your question again.
How soon before this will be done? This year,
Well,
next year, the year after?
we could start and have the reappraisal done as of April 1st, 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we could start anytime soon.
Go ahead, Joe.
I notice from our budget materials that we presently have $165,000 towards the cost of reappraisal, and the bid from John's company is for $275,000. How do we get the other $110,000 that are needed? I guess that's a question for the town manager.
Did you hear
Sorry, I have
that?
to keep going back on me. Yeah, so the money that goes in each year that we get from the state isn't going to cover that difference. So this is something that either we're going to put into the budget and kind of spike the budget there, or we ask the voters to use any surplus that would have to go on the ballot this year. So we're kind of closing in that timeline. Or, of course, no one wants to hear this one, but the last effort would be to use ARPA funds. And I'm trying to remember what Mary Jo had spoken to me about on this one, how in the end it might be a cost wash, but I guess I don't want to misspeak on it. So maybe Mr. Vickery has something that he could share with that, but as far as how this works, but I'm not really sure how much money we're getting each year from the state for the statewide reappraisal.
So
I'm not sure if Melanie's on where she can answer it.
to follow up on that, would we get additional monies from the state for reappraisal between now and April 1, 2025? Maybe that's a question for Melanie or John.
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, I can wait my turn, but yes, I'm here.
I think it would be appropriate for you to answer that question now, if you can.
What I can do off the top of my head is we get approximately a little over $20,000 every year for grand list maintenance, which goes in, is from the state of Vermont, which goes into our reappraisal reserve. That we get every year. The state hasn't changed that amount in a long time. It's based on the number of parcels we have, so it might go up and down a little bit. I believe it's $8.50 a parcel. And I do not know, unfortunately, off the top of my head, what is the balance in our reappraisal reserve at the moment. If someone has their financial reports with them, I could lead you to that page.
I don't have mine with me. Does anyone have theirs with them? Do you have one, Bob?
I was thinking I did, but
I put it on the budget worksheet. I took it from the reappraisal sheet, put it on the reserve, and I put it down. There's like $160-something thousand, I believe.
let her guide you.
Five.
Is that what it is?
Okay, so-
You got it?
So if we already have the answer to the question, is
Already have,
165?
okay.
Thank you, Bob.
165 in there?
So we would be approximately 40 short? Does that sound about right?
Well, depending on when that next $20,000 comes in, we're either 110 short or 70 short.
So I guess it's time to make a decision, guys. What's your, or people, what's your pleasure? Do we move forward with this, or?
I don't think we have any choice.
I don't either, but
Make the motion, Joe, please.
Sure. I would move that on the recommendation of our town assessor, Mary Jo Teetor, we authorize the town manager to sign a contract with Tyler Technologies for a townwide reappraisal to be conducted prior to April 1st, 2025. I should say to be completed prior to April 1, 2025, for a cost not to exceed $275,000.
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
275?
So, Mr. Verrecki, as soon as we get our town manager back, he'll be in contact with you, and we'll move forward with this. Okay? You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Okay, moving on. Rutland Emergency Management Committee, reappointment of representatives. I think you all have the recommendation in front of you, and all we need is the approval to reappoint if that's your desire. The discussion from the board?
I would make a motion that we reappoint Michael Jones as town manager to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and Peter Mantello as police chief to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission as well.
I'll second it.
I want to clarify for your motion that that's to the Rutland Emergency Management Committee.
Thank you. I had that wrong.
So any more discussion on this issue? Hearing none, all in favor? Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mark said that as town manager and police chief, but if you turn it over the back, I'm actually the emergency management director, and Chief Mantello is the emergency management coordinator. And then we'll sign it for our proxy votes that if I'm not present, he can have the vote and stuff, but it really should read that I'm the emergency management director and he's the emergency management coordinator.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
When I turn the back over, what it says for Chief Mantello is that he is the emergency services voter. Doesn't use the word coordinator.
Yeah, I see that, and that's a change then because it's always been emergency management coordinator, so I stand corrected, it's emergency services voter.
I'm happy to have those changes made in my motion.
So you all with us, Alan? So you caught up?
Lost it on the last one.
So perhaps we should rescind that motion and start over, Joe. Might be easier.
So those are the two
Voter.
titles.
Okay, okay.
I would move that we appoint Michael Jones as the town of Castleton's representative to the Rutland Emergency Management Committee in the role of Emergency Management Director, and that we appoint Peter Mantello to that same body, REMC, as Emergency Services Voter.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Did you have to say you rescinded the first one?
I should have said that. I was being directed to rescind it. So, This is all predicated on the assumption that I rescinded my previous motion.
Rescind it first, and we'll come out.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor?
Did we get a second on that?
We did. Mary Lee Harris seconded that.
Thank you. Aye.
Just see.
Okay, this one I was totally confused on, but we'll go for it. Easy bid docs to find source for disbursement of funds. Wait, we'll wait for a moment here.
Where is his name? We can get that later.
Are we good to proceed?
Yeah, we need a name. We need John's name.
John,
I just wanna make sure I had.
from Tyler, his last name, John Vickery, Vickery. Okay. Easy bid docs to find source for disbursement of funds. So we have two purchase orders with us here for the easy bid docs. And I guess the question is, where is the funding coming from? What I didn't do, because I didn't understand the question, I didn't go back and look at the minutes from those meetings to see just exactly what the motion said. So Mike, can you help us out here with this? Do you have any thoughts on where we decided this money was coming from?
At the time, it was, I think the term piggy bank may have been used. I'm not really, if that was the correct one, but this was, it wasn't decided on where the money come from. This was to digitize those records for all the minutes, the meetings, and stuff like that. And at the time the motion was made, it wasn't determined on what the source of funding would be for it. And now that we got a second one, it's now kind of critical that get identified where the money's going to come from. And originally it was discussed about using the ARPA funds because this was supposed to be able to digitize things. People can do research from online. They don't need to come into the town office, stuff like that. So that was kind of the gist of, or the spirit behind it, but it was never actually concluded of where it was going to come from. So now you got the first bill, and now we got the second batch of documents. That's another $5,000 something. So that's kind of the question on the table is where does the money come from? And there's no easy answer for this one. There's no pot of special money for this one.
Are you saying there's no piggy bank?
I'm not saying there's not a piggy bank. I'm just saying that the piggy bank doesn't say, this is a great spot for this, to use this money. So, if we spend the money, it's gonna, like anything else that would happen in government, if we end up overspending the budget line, at the end of the year when everything's cleared, it's either gonna get covered by a surplus or it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb under, over expenditure. So we're kind of stuck at that point, and Melanie's on. I know that she brought this to my attention a couple weeks ago because of the minutes from the previous meeting didn't really specify, and now we got a second invoice or a purchase order that is in our face right now because the documents are the rest of those documents need to be digitized. So here we are. I think it's in the spirit of the ARPA, but I think everything has become spirit of the ARPA. So I guess the choice is to we overspend the budget line and let it flow to the end of the year, or you guys decide to use that ARPA money. And because it's kind of too late to wait to the end to voters, to ask the voters to use a surplus on it, because that's not going to happen until March.
Refresh my memory. Mike, refresh my memory, what's our anticipated surplus for this past fiscal year?
I believe it's 189 unaudited.
Okay, and I have the ARPA worksheet in front of me. Everybody, just so you know, we have obligated 482,000 out of a total of 1.3 million. We have 835 that has been proposed by the town manager, and there's still 60,000 that has not been allocated for anything or suggested for anything, just so you know. Mr. Mark?
I guess my question for the town manager is this, or some of this, a recurring expense?
No, this is going to catch us up to the point where all of the records that we have that were meeting minutes or such will be digitized, and then from the maintenance point from then on becomes either we budget it, and which will be a lot smaller amount per year to have a company digitize them, or we invest in a good scanner and we do it ourselves. So this is kind of the one-time shot in the arm that gets us to a point where we can sustain it from here without having to, use some kind of crazy form of funding. It's either budgeted or we just invest in a scanner and do the stuff ourselves.
Which still would have a cost.
Yeah, it's a much smaller cost than what this is going to be, because if you look at the amount of documents that $5,000 is going to scan, how many boxes it is, we wouldn't even come close to that per year with meeting minutes of all the boards and stuff. So it'd be a really small cost to have it a company do it, but it'd also be a small cost for us to get a scanner and do it ourselves.
Understood. You have a question, Joe?
Is it necessary to scan these documents when they can already be created as PDFs?
Well, that's, I hope I understand your question, but, so these documents are being scanned, and cataloged in PDF format.
I understand, but we don't.
That's what they're doing for us. They just took all these boxes and boxes and boxes of records and the parcel files were part of those. The big push in the beginning was the parcel files for zoning, and now we're in the minutes of meetings and stuff. So they're just going to be digitized and be searchable from online. And the minutes and stuff like that are supposed to go. They're supposed to be in the town clerk's vault, and we haven't been doing that. We've been storing them upstairs. So now that they're digitized and available, for searching, we're going to put the paper records in the town clerk's vault so they're protected against fire. Not sure if that answers your question, Mr. Mark.
Keep going, Joe.
Well, it doesn't quite, but it doesn't really affect my inclination at this point to move that we approve these payments utilizing ARPA funds.
Thank you.
Well, we don't have a second yet.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we use the ARPA funds to pay these two purchase orders for Easy Bid Docks. Any more discussion from the board?
Did you want to put them out, maybe?
Well, these have already
Mr.
been
Chairman?
approved by the board, so.
Go ahead, Mike.
If I can, maybe Joe can let me know if there's something I need to look up for him to get an answer. If I didn't answer his question, I want to make sure I answer it. So maybe either tonight or offline sometime I can get an answer and share it with everybody.
Sure. So Allison has asked if we should put an amount in for these payments, and that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. So if I
Joe, can I make a suggestion? You also include the purchase order numbers?
So I would modify my motion to say that we pay the bill from eBiz Docs for $16,000 specified in purchase order number 050922 and the bill from eBiz Docs for $5,702, indicated in purchase order 050938, and pay those bills with funds, with ARPA funds.
Still second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we pay these two purchase orders with ARPA funds. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one passes. Okay, moving on. So this one is one for, I believe, the town manager. The agenda item is treasurer, accountant, parks and rec director, transfer station, chief operator, anticipated vacancies versus budget implications.
Yes, thank you. So I think the board's aware of the vacancies, but if not, starting on the first one, the treasurer is Ms. Trudo is going to be resigning or stepping down from her position on the 3rd of January. And that leaves a gap between the time of the resignation versus when the next election is. So the select board can choose to appoint an interim treasurer until the next election. And the assistant treasurer, who is Nedra Boutwell, has stated to me that she is willing to perform those duties as interim treasurer until the next election. So to get the word out there, the reason we're doing this is to get the word out there so that anybody that wants to run for treasurer as an elected official can make sure they get their petitions in on time to be able to make it on the ballot. So that would be the treasurer position. If anybody have any questions about that one?
Can I just add so that everyone is clear, that is not an appointed position, that it is elected, so if someone so chooses to desire the position of treasurer in the town of Castleton, they need to get a petition out there, get, I believe it's 1% of the voters? Or 10%, I forget which. It's around 30 signatures. And then submit that to the town clerk before the deadline, which is in late January, to get on the ballot for the March town meeting.
And they have to be a registered voter in the town of Castleton.
That is correct. Joe?
And presumably, we would leave the assistant treasurer vacant until town meeting day.
The assistant treasurer, if, I'll make sure I'm correct on this, but my understanding is the assistant treasurer is appointed by the treasurer.
That's my understanding as well.
Yep, that is correct.
But we would leave that vacant in the interim.
I would say that has to be a call that has to get made by the treasurer, because I'm not sure what the treasurer's vacation schedule would be, and if they're not going to be available, we need somebody else as a backup to be able to sign checks and stuff and do the banking stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes, okay, we can move on, I think, Mike. Is the board all set without the treasurer?
Okay, on the accountant, Melanie is retiring in January, and so we put out the bid or advertisement for an accountant, and we interviewed 2 applicants or candidates, and I selected one and offered them the position, and they start on the 20th of November, they still have to, the person still has to pass a physical and background check and all that, so they're not hired yet. It's a conditional letter of hire, but they would start on the 20th, and if I haven't shared the information with you, I will do so now that it's the person's said that they're interested, and they signed a conditional letter of hire today. So we will see an overlap with the outgoing accountant, Melanie, and the incoming accountant, from November 20th until in Melanie's final day in January, so that we have no break in continuity, or at least we do our damnedest to mitigate that, having a breakdown of our financial system for the town. So that's, and there's a physical coming up, so I'll know whether they pass the physical and the background check and all that, but I don't think there'll be an issue, but we should have a new accountant starting on the 20th of November. Parks and Rec Director, we still have the vacancy. Several candidates were interviewed, and I sent a letter to the Rec Commissioner today, basically explaining my rationale, and I do want to talk to the Select Board in executive session on personnel issues at the end of this meeting, if you will do so, and talk specifically about that position. Transfer Station Chief Operator, Chris Forrest, had resigned, and that had to offer it up to the union first, and there's one person in the union that's interested, but there's some issues that I got to resolve there to be able to move forward with it. And if that works out, then it'd be filled from internally, but if not, then it would have to go out to advertisement outside of the union. And of course, when I put the budget implications statement in there, is the town still hasn't had the union contract negotiations with ASME union yet. So there's some implications there as far as where that's gonna land with their wages and how it impacts the current budget for filling the transfer station chief operator position. The rest of them would not be affected by it, but that one would. So more to follow once I find out about whether this person is able to fill it, if they can fill it internally or not. So that would conclude my discussion on those vacancies, unless you have any questions.
I have one question there.
Go ahead, Bob, and then we have somebody on Zoom that wants to talk.
Okay, Mike, if you fill it internally, that'll leave you an empty position in another department though, right? Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, now, Martha Clifford wants to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask permission to be included in the executive session.
I don't know if that would be appropriate yet, Martha. I'm going to decline that request at this point, and we will definitely include you in anything beyond that before any decisions are made.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? We're going to move on, Mike. Are you good?
Yep.
All right, the 24-25 budget discussion. The first draft was issued today, is that correct, Mike, or was it issued yesterday?
2:21 this morning.
So the first, okay, so it was issued today, because today started at midnight.
That's right.
All right, so I'm willing to assume, there's that bad word again, that some of you, at least some of you, have not had a chance to really go through this yet.
No, because we had to come pick them up.
So what I would suggest is that you take a look at this. I mean, it's a little light reading here. And the things that you are okay with or not okay with, discern those items and let the town manager know as soon as you can. I would say within 1 week. Is that reasonable, Mike? Well, I'm going to...
Yes, but just to lay a frame on that, it's kind of early for to put together the full budget right now because we have a lot of missing pieces of information. So a lot of the things that are on the budget that don't require personnel, wages, or healthcare, or not healthcare, well, I guess it's primary wages, but, those things are not sorted out yet. The majority of the budget would be, but it'd come down to the wages, the FICA, those numbers haven't been refined. And I also had highlighted some stuff on the far side, on the far right side in the notes, like the utilities and some of these costs that are split up amongst departments. That Melanie's working on that, so those haven't been finalized, a lot of them. But today Melanie did go through that budget that I sent you and made some changes based on some of the utility stuff. And so I would say, please take the one I sent you and throw it out. And tomorrow I will email and have Karen print out a new one for you that has the amount that are on there went down a little bit based upon insurance stuff. So I ask you, please throw the ones out that you have, and you'll get some fresh ones tomorrow and look at those. And then what Mr. Combs was saying is there may be some things on there that you have no issues with because it didn't go down, it didn't go up, it stayed the same, whatever. And I can move on past those and focus on those budgets that you may have concerns with, and be able to answer questions that you may have, and try to get you those answers before the next meeting when we can bring this back before the public and the select board for further consumption.
Go ahead, Mary Lee. Yes, thank you, Mike.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we have a special meeting for just the budget, nothing else on it.
I'm certainly not opposed to that, but I'm also not the chairman, so what's the rest of the board's feeling on that?
I think it's very difficult to discuss something as substantial as this in 10 minutes, which is what we normally give it. So I would approve, I would agree that.
I do agree with you, for what it's worth.
Absolutely.
So, I think what we'll do is, Mike, when do you think we should actually get together as a board and a town manager? And it will be a meeting in public to discuss this budget. I can look at a calendar now, and we can pick a date and hope our chairman can attend. What do you think, Mike? Sometime the week of the 27th through the 1st, because I know we have to have this nailed down before the end of December, correct?
No, we got until January. We just got to be cognizant or mindful of the dates that we have to have stuff in the town report stuff has to be submitted. But I think the week of Monday the 27th, if you want to have a special meeting that week, and you've had a chance to look at all this and maybe ask me any questions or ask me for any additional information that I can have it before that meeting, the week of the 27th, then that should work.
Well, what's everybody's feelings on that, if they can?
I can do the 27th, or we're going to be here the 27th anyway.
We're going to have a meeting.
The 29th.
I'm not opposed to the 29th. Is that something, can you forecast your schedule that far ahead, Bob?
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay. Mr. Mark?
We're talking about the 29th of November.
Yes.
It's a Wednesday.
Is that something you can make, Mike?
Yes, this shouldn't be the problem. I just want to make sure that I don't think there's anything else booked for other boards and stuff like that, but I'll verify that. But other than that, I'm good with the 29th.
There will be a fire department drill here in this building, but I'm sure that they can accommodate our needs. Unless they're training in this room, in which case we could use the conference room.
So Wednesday night wouldn't be my first choice. Are there other alternatives in that time frame?
I couldn't make any night work that week.
I can't do Thursday. The 21st, I usually do bingo for the Legion, but I can skip that and they can get someone else.
The 28th, you mean, Mary?
28th. 28th or 29th would be,
So, yeah, I would prefer the 28th then, if that works for everybody else.
Okay.
that means there's a planning commission meeting here, is that correct, Mr. Chairman? Or Mr. Town Manager?
That's correct.
So we
That's my
can,
birthday too. Cake.
Too bad.
I'll bring the cake.
Bob's gonna bring a cake.
How about December 1st then, which is Friday?
No,
I
Friday's
prefer
not good.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
We could meet next door.
We could meet next door, that's not a problem. You okay with meeting on your birthday, Mike?
Yeah, I'm fine with the Thursday the 30th.
No, Tuesday the 28th
Tuesday, the 28th.
at the town
I can do
office.
28.
Okay, Bob owes you a cake.
Yeah, I owe him a cake. Might be cupcakes, but
All right, so, what time? 7 o'clock? Or earlier?
6:37.
wanna make it earlier? Let's make it earlier.
I'd just as soon meet earlier.
Yeah.
6 o'clock. So we'll have to have Karen post an agenda. 6 o'clock on the 28th, there will be a budget meeting.
Understood?
Did he say,
Thank you.
did he say, throw this all away? Within 12 hours, throw it all away.
All right, anything else on the budget for now? You all set, Mike?
Waste of paper, look at this. Everybody got one.
Anything from the board?
Yes, I'm all set.
Anything from the board yet on the budget?
No.
Okay, so please, if you have a chance, or please take the time to go through this and let Mike know anything that you're A, okay with, or B, not okay with. Prior to that meeting, preferably next week would be best to give him time to deal with things as they come up. Does that work for you, Mike?
Yeah, it works for me. I just want to make sure I have time to get any information gathered that you asked for, that's all.
Okay, so we have a plan. Okay, next, are we ready to move on, board?
Think so.
Next item on the agenda is Lake Bomoseen Preservation Trust, request approval for bottle redemption revenue. We'll take discussion from the board first.
I am very much opposed to this. I feel that the bottles and things should go for children, such as different sports, recreation, project graduation. This Bomoseen Preservation seems to have enough money for lobbying and things like that, and I feel it's taking it away from the children.
Anybody else on the board?
I'm also opposed to it, as what Mary Lee said. Very much so.
As am I.
As am I. I did take the time, and I'm sure you have too, to look at our bottle and can policy, which is pretty short. There's not a lot to it, and I also did a very minor amount of research. It's around $150 a month on average, and it's typically only 3 or 4 months a year is anyone requesting the funds. So in those cases where no entity has requested the funds, then they automatically go back into the transfer station revenue. And I'm not opposed to that continuing. However, what we might want to consider is doing a default, whereas if, because $150 a month is not going to make or break the transfer station, that we consider something like a default. If no one asks for it, it goes to Castleton Cares or Little League or something. Just a thought. So chew that one around, and if you get, anyone has a suggestion, I would love to hear it. So, but those are my thoughts. So, I'm going to ask for a motion on this item. Is there any discussion from anyone other than the board on this? Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion one more time. And this is third and final request for a motion on this.
I would move that we decline the request of the Lake Bomoseen Preservation Trust Incorporated to be provided with those revenues generated by the transfer station bottle redemption process.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We decline this request. Is there any more discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to vote on this one, aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on, managers report. Mike, you're up again. Where the heck is that? It's in here.
I know you guys got this late, so you might not even have a chance to read it, but, so I just sort of defer, say, if you have any questions of anything that's highlighted in there, or anything that's not highlighted in there, I guess, that I could answer.
Mike, I did have a chance to go through this. You sent an electronic copy earlier, and I read that, and then I went through the paper copy I picked up this afternoon. And at this point, I have no questions that we haven't already talked about.
All right. Apologies to the board. I did talk to Russ today at the sewer planning office week, but he called me back, and we're still struggling with that company that's supposed to televise the lines underneath Castleton Corners and Sucker Brook, and I asked them to give me the phone number so I can call them personally to see what's going on, but they just keep giving the runaround, and they're the only company that put a bid in to even do this work. So we hit a stone wall just getting someone, and now that we have someone, they're not giving us a date when they're going to come down here. So that's been almost a year in the making, trying to get this thing taken care of. So it's ongoing. And I apologize again on the budget stuff. I want to go back one thing and mention something that the board may want to consider. Is last year the village school, the operating budget was put on the ballot, and I don't know what your guidance to me this year is going to be, is whether or not to put this on the ballot or as a separate ballot article again, because it's not in that budget worksheet you got. It's not in there, so I would just need some direction of how you want me to handle that. But barring your questions, that's all I have.
That's Jake, whoever Jake is. Whoever Jake is on Zoom, you need to mute yourself, please.
Mr. Chairman, I had two questions for the manager.
Go ahead, please.
One is, you've mentioned, I believe a couple of times, the potential use of ARPA funds, including to replace some vehicles. Are those suggestions on the previous list you've given us of, what was it, $800 some odd thousand of possible expenditures?
Yes, Mr. Mark, they're already included in that list.
Thank you. My second question was whether there's been any feedback from Joe Howard as to whether he's willing to upgrade that road before the town agrees to maintain it.
The answer is no at this point. He has been into the town office and met with, when Jim Thomas was still there, and that was discussed, I believe, but not a decision not made. And I also, we have received a couple visits from Nancy Livatore asking about what's the status, and it doesn't sound like at this point there's a commitment to bringing that road up to standard for the town, then to make a consideration whether taking it over or not.
But he knows that that's the condition under which we would consider taking it over.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Anyone else?
Yes, I got a couple questions on this grant project update number 1, Mike. Maybe you guys have already done it, but it asks in here, the next steps are to select a municipal project manager and resident engineer for the project. Have we done that, or do we need to do it, or?
Is this for 1A, Bob, the transportation alternative?
Yes.
Or which? Is that the one you're talking about, Bob?
Yes, yes.
Oh, no, that has not, we have not selected that. I'm waiting for the final grant agreement from the state. As soon as we get that, I'll put it out through at the ready list for V-Trans. It's a lot quicker process. We don't have to go out to bid with it, so I just need to send a letter to them, see if they want to. I know I've already talked to one of the companies and said, would you be interested? And that was Fuss and O'Neill, and of course they're interested.
Okay.
But I still have to wait for that final grant agreement.
Okay, on that same category, but under C, transportation alternatives. I don't want you to explain it at the meeting, but I want to get with you to figure out why there's an $800,000 price tag on the salt and sand shed. But I want to just get with you personally and figure that out. That blew my mind. So.
Would you mind having Jeff there? Because he's been doing a lot of the coordination with that as well.
Oh, no, that's fine. Whenever the three of us can get together, or four of us, whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Yeah, we can certainly share that with you because it's a huge amount of money, that's for sure.
Yeah, me and Clarence Decker there a few years ago, we went around and we looked at a lot of those different salt and sand sheds, and obviously everything has doubled and tripled and quadrupled since then, but $800,000, it just seems like, whoo! But we'll get together on that. What year is the 450?
Yeah.
What year is the 450 you're looking to replace, Mike? Is that the 2011? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, 2011.
Okay. I had a couple more, I think, but those are the big ones. I think I'm all set now. Yep. Yep.
You good, Mary Lee?
I'm fine.
Joe, you good?
Yes.
Okay. I'm all set. Anything else, Mike, before we move on?
Not unless you have something.
I do not. Okay, we have 2 purchase orders that need to be approved. Do we hear any motions for these 2 purchase orders?
Make a motion, we approve purchase order 051169, the Central Vermont Truck Repair, repairs to the roll-off truck for $7,763.37.
I'll second it.
This is coming out of the budget for the transfer station, correct, Mike?
Yes, correct.
What's the date today?
That's correct. I'm not sure you heard me. I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I heard you. It's been moved, I did get a second, right?
Yes, Mary Lee.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion, we approve purchase order 050495 to the Castleton Volunteer Fire Department for fiscal year 23/24 point fund. It says points, for $12,000.
I'll second.
So, Mr. Parliamentarian, I need to recuse myself from this, so would you call the question?
Sure. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
1.
Motion passes. Oh, excuse me, one abstention.
Well, I recuse myself, whatever the
Yes.
appropriate word is.
Recusal. Better. Motion passes. 3-0-1.
Okay, we're going to move on to warrants, please.
Make a motion to approve warrant 1113R for $650. Warrant 1026 for $6,108.69. Warrant 1102 for $2,035. Warrant 1109 for $32,039.63. Warrant 1113 for $243,621. and 77 cents. Warrant 1026P for $16,708.04. Warrant 1102P for $17,276.04. Warrant 1109P for $19,450.60.
I'll second.
I've moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Same thing with these three, Mr. Parliamentarian. I will recuse myself from these three warrants.
I would move that we approve warrant number 1027P for $641.32. Warrant number 1103P for $641.32. And warrant number 1110P for $641.32.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
One recusal.
Mr. Coombs recuses himself. Thank you.
It feels like there's 4 pieces of paper here, but there isn't.
All right, thank you.
Hey, they'll take the one you got gone over to Joe.
Okay.
Oh, he's coming over. Hey.
Don't fight.
I'd never miss an opportunity to stretch.
Oh, good to stand up. How you doing? So if you show me how to start and stop the recording and log out, then you can take off when we go into executive session, or you can hang out in the parking lot. Your call.
I had a meeting before this one, so
Pardon?
I haven't had dinner yet. I had a meeting before this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did eat. Of course, I had to make my own dinner. Actually, I do the cooking more often than not during the week. That may change starting in January, but right now,
Yeah, your whole world's gonna change here shortly, huh?
I'm actually looking forward to it. I think ratcheting her stress level down will not do us any harm at all. I've been trying to slow down, but the phone keeps ringing.
It's not always a bad thing.
No.
Better than it not ringing at all, I guess. Unless you're at that point in life. but-
Well, I'm picking and choosing what I do now.
Yeah, there you go.
Me too, but I don't know enough to say no.
I need 11, Joe. Beautiful.
Really enjoyed that.
That's not true. That's not good, is it? This one. I just don't know how to tell which one
We're not that good a show, are we? All right,
Good ones, but.
do we have any items we need to go over again, follow up on, or are we all set?
You skipped one,
I did? What did I skip?
select board.
Oh, thank you.
I like what.
That was a major oversight on my part. I apologize. So, select board comments, Mary Lee?
I like the remark, I'm thinking of it, as you said, if no one has asked for the $150 or whatever, I think it should automatically go to the recreation.
I'm not opposed to that. We can, I would suggest that everyone think about it and come back at another meeting, and you can make that motion, and, well, actually, we should put it on the agenda, though.
Yeah,
I don't think we should make that decision without it being on the agenda.
no,
But I certainly would be willing to have that discussion.
Okay?
Anything else?
Follow on.
Bob?
Just a question on this sheet, some of this stuff has already been allocated, but the way this sheet reads, it sounds like we still have to decide whether they're getting the money or not. How do they determine what's already been given and what hasn't been given?
The page one is ARPA funds already obligated by the select board. It says that
These
right
have
up,
already been obligated.
it says that right up there in the top, upper left corner, if you have the same copy I do. Right up here, Bob.
Yep, it does say that.
Okay.
The very top says potential uses of ARPA funds.
Yeah, that's the header for the spreadsheet, and that's where it threw you.
The whole
But
spreadsheet.
the green page is what we've already made the decisions on.
Okay, perfect.
And the red stuff is what Mike has proposed.
And the orange stuff is what Mike's proposed.
And what I just did on my copy is I wrote in the 21,702 for eBiz dot on the green sheet, because we made that decision tonight.
Okay, good idea.
Somebody doesn't like me because I don't have that.
This was,
I
gi-
don't have that sheet.
this was given to us back in October,
Oh, I thought
and I
This was
just,
in my box.
Oh.
This was just in my box
this was just in your box.
this morning.
now?
Yeah.
it was, we had at the last select board meeting,
But we've had other copies of it, yeah.
and I keep this with me all the time because it undoubtedly comes up more often than you might want to know.
Thank you, Chuck, I missed that.
It's okay. So you all good, Bob? Anything
Yeah,
else?
I'm all good.
Mr. Mark?
I have no comments or concerns.
Nor do I. So, now, if we have nothing to follow up on, I guess we need a
Well,
motion.
I do think the idea of putting the, what do we call it, the bottle can policy on the agenda would be a good idea.
All right, we'll talk to the town manager about getting that done for the next meeting. And please come with good, brilliant brainstorm ideas. The rec department isn't a bad one, but there might be other things, and we need to have the public get a chance to weigh in on this.
Dick, I did have a question
Yes.
that I wanted to ask.
So we'll call it a follow-up item.
Yeah, okay.
Right, we'll
Both?
we will
Folks from the rec
presumably
department,
put,
Can
we
you
may
give
put a
us an
stipulation
update on your
about that in
revenue so
this,
far
that
for
it-
this year?
yeah.
At the next meeting, you don't have to do it here. It's not fair to hit you with that. But I just want to know where you're at with your revenues.
If I could correct that, we're not on the rec commission.
Oh, okay. Can I have that on the record for somebody to find out what the revenues are from the rec department year-to-date, where they're at for the next meeting?
I think the town manager is probably in the best position to report that.
Perfect. You hear that, Mike?
Yep, I heard it.
All right, thank you.
Another action item for Mike.
Yep.
Anything on follow-up or select board comments, concerns? Then I think we need a motion, as much as we don't want it.
So,
Personnel?
okay, I would move that the select board go into executive session for the purposes of considering matters of personnel with the board and the town manager.
I'll second that.
Have moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session. Thank you, folks.